I feel really silly needing like a sticker chart at 33, but I needs it.
It's okay. Obviously, this is a new year, so this is a time to evolve, quote unquote. And so I guess something that I've been thinking about is how I can own my evolution.
I think schooling trains us to kind of feel this need for external validation to prove ourselves. And there is obviously some value in that. But at what point do you stop having to prove things to other people or be cleared by other people in order to just start?
Right. Basically what I'm suggesting as a way to embrace your evolution is just, I don't know, would we schedule our time to go out to eat?
No.
I don't think so.
This is Sistas Declassified, the podcast where
Taylor
and Taryn,
your virtual sisters, share experiences, insights, and of course the juicy secrets that never leave the sister circle.
So shh, listen up. The Declassified convos are starting now.
Welcome back to Sistas Declassified. We're real life sisters who decided to start a podcast instead of letting our growth go to waste.
But before we get started, don't forget to subscribe for your weekly dose of declassified moments.
All right, so we're just going to get into our declassified moment for today.
No filter, no fluff.
Stop waiting for a sign to change and start owning the masterpiece that you're becoming. Evolution isn't an accident, it's an active choice. I chose this declassified moment today just because obviously this is a new year, so this is a time to evolve, quote unquote.
Right, it's a time where we're thinking about it a lot.
This is winter, so we really shouldn't be changing, but we might be thinking about what our changes are and like what we want them to be. Mm-hmm. And I guess I've just been reflecting on what is like passive evolution and what is intentional evolution.
Okay.
And like we obviously grow and change every day when we experience something, so that's like our passive growth. Like,
right, because life can happen to us,
mm-hmm.
or life does happen to us.
Mm-hmm. And you might not reflect, right, actively on what you experienced that made you change or be different, but mm-hmm. you do change.
Right, you might not even be aware.
Mm-hmm. And so I guess something that I've been thinking about is how I can own my evolution. Like, so if people notice something different about me or I notice something different about myself, how do I claim that? So like, what am I trying to say?
Well, it's interesting that you say that because I don't remember what episode, but in a previous episode where we were talking about making change and personal growth, you had named you don't want people to like name it for you or call it out. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting to hear you say, even just a few months later, that you are open to how you might receive it and thinking about how you could intentionally take it as opposed to just like reacting to how it mm-hmm. feels to get it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's evolution.
I'm owning my evolution.
That's growth.
Because
right
there. I was having a hard time with like what people's reaction to me being different. Mm-hmm. And so far there has been very little reaction or positive reaction or good feedback of me, like even doubling down. Maybe it's something I haven't changed, mm-hmm. like me being very straightforward about my opinions if I feel it's necessary for me to say the opinion. And I guess like recently got some flowers, I guess, from a friend of saying like, I've learned that from you, like being able to say what I mean, and if it's not received, I can pivot and correct myself.
Right.
And that is something that I realized is okay because of you. And so that was like me owning who I am, my evolution of like, yes, people used to get upset with me about the way I would say things, and that would make me not say things, mm-hmm. right? But it's like, no, I need to be okay with people getting upset.
Yeah, and you should be able to express yourself or your opinions or your points, mm-hmm. And be prepared to communicate to be understood, not just to express, mm-hmm. I guess, right?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Kind of. Basically. But I think I'm also just trying to evolve in other ways, right? Of being able to express love, like I mm-hmm. talked about in the last episode, mm-hmm. or being able to just be more caring verbally.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Verbal affirmations and mm-hmm. things like that. Those are always welcome over here.
Yay.
I love those.
But I think there's other ways I'm evolving and trying to own my evolution. But I think before we talk about how you can evolve and own your evolution, like what are the things that can hold you back from evolving?
Oh, I mean, something that comes to me very easily when you think about like what holds you back. What does Sista say? Fear of failure is holding you back. That's
I don't know Sista like that. So
that's on the nose for me. It's just when I think about what are the things that might take up this next chapter for me in 2025. They're all things that would require me to have some different habits. If I want to do them in the way that I think I should, or do it with intention. So like I think about motherhood as an example of an area that like I'm thinking about that I never really thought about before, but it requires me, or I would like to move in different ways. And so it requires me to get out of some of my habits, get out of some of my routines in preparation for that, which is scary and challenging. As an example.
Yeah. And I think maybe not fully knowing whether doing those changes is necessary. Whether
it's necessary, whether it will actually be helpful. And I mean, there's also just this element of control that you don't have in this situation like this. And in lots of parts of life. But specifically when it comes to like being a parent, you get what you get.
You get what you get and you learn as you go.
And from what I've been hearing, because you know me, I gotta ask around, there's no amount of preparing you can do. Like, there's a baseline. Sure, you should probably do a few of these things that we all know to do. But there's nothing that will prepare you. And it's the most humbling experience, I've been told.
Right. You get humbled every day, I bet.
Because you're not in control. That is, once the child is here. I mean, you have a partner, hopefully, right? Prayerfully, or friends or community or what have you that support. So it's not like all on you. Oh my.
It was very loud and dramatic.
It was. But I think that was more dramatic than the phone.
I'm sorry. Get out of here. Okay. Anyway. But sorry. I didn't mean to distract you.
No, it's okay. I think we talked long enough about that level of evolution, but that's like an area for me that would require just to be uncomfortable. And honestly, oftentimes evolving into a space you want to be in requires you to be uncomfortable or to grow in some way, shape, or form. And usually that means shedding some part of yourself or figuring out how to transform.
Bruh. Sorry about that. All right. Back to my train of thought.
I don't remember
what I don't know what we were even saying.
Well, first you threw the phone.
Right. So we were just all over the place.
But we were talking
about
my
evolution is
patience. Right? You need some patience in 2025.
Yes. But I think you also hit on that there's some other reasons, like not just fear of failure, but a lack of clarity in knowing what to do and feeling overwhelmed with all of the steps that it takes to achieve whatever you need to achieve. I guess in parenting, that's a little bit different.
Yeah.
What you're trying to achieve is going to change every day.
Right. And it's so vague or broad, right? Like, happy, healthy children. What the hell does that mean?
Right. I don't even.
I mean, luckily, right, like work and life experience, I've seen a broad range of parenting styles. So that's very helpful. So, I mean, in that regard, I think I do feel prepared and like I understand how children work. But I know that it's different when it's yours or when they are yours.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
So and when it's your overwhelm, not just a few hours, and I know I can send them back.
But anywho, Daddy are coming for you, Johnny. I will say, I think we could even relate it to doing this podcast of like waiting. We waited. I think we experienced the dynamic between ourselves, and I don't know if you were having like a waiting or expectation that things might change by themselves, or if you felt like there was a need for change. But I would say our relationship has evolved quite a bit since starting this podcast.
Definitely.
And we talk quite often. But prior to doing it, I think it was a waiting to change kind of situation where it was like, yes, she's my sister, and we get together if Mom calls us to get together.
Yeah.
But that was kind of it.
Yeah, I think we are both trying to not find ourselves in adulthood, but like, yeah, we're both I would say 2020 pandemic is when we kind of opened the door to, hey, have we ever really talked about our relationship or how we view each other? I think because we were at home and we were together, and those were also conversations we were having with Mom independently and together. So I think, to your point, the door opened then, but it wasn't until we kicked off the podcast in 2023, started recording 2024, that we probably talk at least once a week for sure. Mm-hmm. And now it's probably like every other day that we're communicating in some way. It's not always like, how's your day going? Right. But there's constant contact, I guess you would say. Mm-hmm. In the same way I'm in constant contact with Mom. I don't know if you're in contact with her the same kind of way, but
sure. Sometimes.
Yeah. So it has definitely increased.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm like trying to think about other areas of life where I've hoped for a change. It's always fitness.
I knew you were gonna say that. I saw you searching for something that wasn't fitness.
I really was. I was trying to find it because I do feel like in my other areas of life, like career wise, if I want something, I do it, mm-hmm. And it's like I don't need to wait for change. Although I am waiting for change in a way of like I'm maybe tired of working with kids. And I'm like waiting for the day that I'm like
decide to do something else, or that's something
just falls
that
in my lap that I really would rather be doing.
I understand that. Mm-hmm. I definitely felt being in direct service and doing that for a few years. It was like, woo.
Well, and this like fear of people tell me how good I am at my job all the time.
You're like, what if you're not good at the next thing? But you will,
or not necessarily not good at it, right? Because I'm going to be in the same scope.
Right.
But I think it's very easy for me to connect with children and like mm-hmm. get them to go in the way I would like them to go. Right. But with adults, that's not always the case. And obviously I'm not trying to coach any adults on going anywhere or do anything. But yeah, that pivot is something that's kind of scary.
So when you say you're getting maybe burnt out or would like to pivot, it's specifically about working with children, not necessarily the work that you do. So you'd be open to working with adults?
Yeah, I'd be open to working with adults, and I think just outside of the system of school. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Like I've been in schools for a decade.
Well, I know you've talked about wanting to open your own sort of center or practice. I don't know what the right word is.
Yeah, I do.
Are you in the waiting game?
Basically.
Ooh.
I'm in the lack of clarity. But also I still have some things I need some certification to finish.
Right. It's one of those big projects we're talking about. Mm-hmm. Nowadays our goals require steps and funds. Steps and funds.
All these licensings, all these boards. You know how much money that people pay to become therapists? I wish look into it. I know y'all be down in this field sometimes, but it's a lot of work.
She paid the way to get there, to be in that room with you.
Yes.
She means it. They're convicted, most.
Well, anyway, I guess our little question to ask before we talk about how you can evolve and what does evolving look like is just, is there an area of your life that you want to change or evolve? Grow. What does that even mean to you?
Yeah.
Evolution.
I know you said you try not to come back to fitness as one of yours, and you named a career, or maybe switching jobs or careers, or mm-hmm. Broadening your scope might be in your near future. For me, I feel like content creation is something I've been holding on to and playing real slow, and it was amazing when you asked to start this podcast, because I feel like I was waiting for someone to want to create something with me. Mm-hmm. And I think just doing this with you kind of opened my eyes to the other things I've been waiting for other people to join me in doing, mm-hmm. instead of just doing. And so
dependency, man.
I know, huh? And like I always feel like I know exactly what everyone else should be doing with their content creation business, or at least like the strategy marketing side of things. Mm-hmm. Whenever anybody talks to me about it, I'm always quick to be like, did you do this, this, and this? What about this? Have you thought about that? And usually people are looking at me like oohs and ahs, and like, that feels good to me, but also I enjoy talking about that. So I should probably figure out a way to do that more regularly. It doesn't necessarily have to be like a job, because I think that means stress. Mm-hmm. But I think this is something I want to talk about, so I should figure out a way to do it, or just start doing it without feeling like I need to do it in this like perfect way. Because I think I feel some imposter syndrome and like, I haven't had a super mega viral video, or like, I'm not famous, so how can I tell you about how to make content? But the answer is I can.
Right.
And so I just need to believe in that, in my ability in that, as opposed to waiting for a viral video to be the proof I need to be somebody's strategist or coach or consultant or whatever.
Yeah, I get that. I think that's similar to like the holistic stuff. Like I really sit and I read all these herbal books and like study herbs and grow herbs and blah blah blah, but I don't feel confident enough to share that with the world. So I don't, because it's like I didn't go through somebody's process to prove I'm credible at this.
Yeah, and I think a lot of life tells us we have to do things that way, or that there's a group that has to validate us, the same way you were just talking about your licensing. And I mean, there are reasons for that, and many of them are, I think the crux of it is around safety and just making sure folks are qualified to have the sort of deep conversations in your field that they need to be able to have. But in general, I think schooling trains us to kind of feel this need for external validation to prove ourselves. And there is obviously some value in that, but at what point do you stop having to prove things to other people or be cleared by other people in order to just start?
Right, exactly. And I think that's probably the biggest area of evolving, right, is like being able to internally validate yourself in your journey and doing it how you want to do it, and regardless of how people receive it.
Which is easier said than done, for sure. Easier said than done.
Yeah, and I think giving yourself grace, right, is the part that makes it easier. Giving yourself grace, and giving others grace too, because they are going to be uncomfortable with your evolution as well. Because usually when you evolve, that means you're going to be showing up differently in other areas of your life too. And so people aren't necessarily upset about your evolution, but maybe don't know how to receive it either.
Right, because it could, bring up some awareness in them about, like, depending on, I think we talked about this in a previous episode, depending on where you hang out with your friends or the kind of habits you have, there may be particular people you do your advice with that you are no longer hanging out with in that context, and that may make them feel some type of way, whether it be about them recognizing maybe how they feel about the space that you guys used to occupy together, or it be about the challenge you're giving them and that you're changing and maybe they're not. So I think it can definitely be a tough space to navigate, particularly if you are feel like you're evolving alone or in a space that other people aren't coming with you in.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting when we talk about friends and stuff, because I saw a post recently that was like, I don't want friends anymore, I only want allies. Did I mention this before?
I think so, but I don't really remember what that differentiation is again.
So basically she was trying to say that friends are people you connect with because you have things in common, and allies are people who are actually going to support you. Right,
and tell you what you don't want to hear, maybe. Maybe we did talk about this in like...
Not just tell you what you don't want to hear, but actually support you. You have a product, they buy it. You post something, they repost it.
You have an event, they show up to volunteer.
But your friends don't necessarily do that, because the reason you guys relate is because you have something in common. So unless you guys are doing that common thing, then that's the only thing that they want to connect with you on. I disagreed with her a little bit. I do believe your friends can be your allies. But I also understand that your allies aren't always your friends.
Yeah, I think your allies can be like coworkers sometimes, right? Like,
right. Yeah. No. Yeah.
I also think friends maybe have a little more history sometimes, or there's some sort of like event or experience that you went through that has bonded you together, and you decided you were friends. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you have all that much in common, other than maybe that thing or that. Yeah.
That situation, right? That can often happen, especially with friends that you had when you were young.
Or even the environment you're in, right? Like your school friends, your gymnastics friends, your cheerleading friends, your teammates, right? Those are different contexts that you meet in. Although I would say my teammates and I have my former teammates and I have, the ones I'm still friends with, we have a lot in common, but we're still very different.
Yeah.
But they're my friends.
But I think the reason I was mentioning that is just in thinking about how do you own your evolution? What does that look like? And part of that might be in assessing like which people around you are your allies versus and which ones are your friends. Because those allies that you have can be the people who help you in this evolution. So like, I do think it's important to share with people when you are trying to change or be different so that they don't hinder you from that, right? But you have to know who is a good person to
go to for what.
To go to for what, but also that is going to encourage you when you are having a hard time, because it's uncomfortable to change and be different. And there are going to be setbacks, so you are going to want to have like a mentor or somebody that you feel like you are leaning on that has your best interest in mind, but can also be actually helpful.
I like the use of the word mentor, because I feel like a mentor is a great example of someone who is an ally, right? They're likely not your age mate or your friend. Maybe they could be, but usually not.
Right.
There's somebody who's a little ahead of you. You don't necessarily want to be their friend. And maybe over time you could become friends, but they're really just somebody you like look up to or get advice from, and they enjoy, speaking with you, and they get something from that too. But it's like a very, I don't want to call it transactional, but it kind of is. But like in the best way possible.
You have a common goal, and you have an understanding that like this person has a wealth of knowledge that I'm trying to learn from, and they are willing to teach me. So, or bounce ideas off,
So mentorship is one way that you can kind of, I guess, begin your evolution, because it could be a great way to gain clarity or learn from someone who's maybe gone a path or similar path you want to go down. But are there any other tips we should get into for just like how to own your evolution aside from seeking allies and mentors?
I mean, I think a big thing for myself and for others could just be affirming yourself. So like setting that clear goal, and then every day telling yourself what are you doing to be that person you want to be. So that, and affirming that. So like, right, I show up every day trying to be or working towards being a therapist or being certified, right, by the board, because I am a therapist, right? So I had to start to affirm that for myself. I feel confident in it now, but I had to start saying like, I am a therapist, right? It's okay, I am a therapist, because it would be awkward for me, and it's something I didn't feel like confident in owning. And so I think building that confidence is that you have to take little steps every day that you can look back on and say, I did this, so yes, I am this. Right? Like, and
be honest when you do or don't do it.
Right. But if it's like, I know that I don't know, let's think of something random. Influencing for you, right? You can name, I am an influencer, or I am a content creator, because the fact of the matter is I post my content and I make it. That is what makes a content creator. Not the amount of subscribers, not the amount of followers, not the amount of engagement. Just the fact of your actions. And
the outputs, not the inputs.
Not the validation, not people's opinions about your situation, but what did you actually do? And if you can start to look back at what you actually did, I think that makes you more
confident.
Yeah, more confident, and you believe it.
Because you have data to back it up. That could be hard for me. I realize I am a visual person. I've tried to do like more digital organizing, and I need to have like something I can see to go, oh, I did it, because I get lost in the digital world if I don't. And I feel really silly needing like a sticker chart at 33, but I need it.
It's okay. I mean, and it might be temporary, right? It's just as you are changing, evolving, right? You need some visual cues to help you to stay accountable.
It's like I'm in a new grade. I'm in a new class.
But I think you just made it clear that like small steps give you big results, and having your sticker chart will help you to see like, I am moving forward.
That's right.
I like the idea of like people doing the bingo cards.
Yes.
I love that.
I want to do one.
I think I want to do one too. Because I think that's a good way of staying accountable, seeing what you've done, but also embracing the journey, knowing what you might still want to check off. I think it's a fun way to plan the year.
Without it being so rigid, because I think that can be challenging. I think about like a 12-week year. I don't know if you've heard of it. And how rigid that can feel. Sometimes, like, you set these 3 goals and you have 12 weeks to do these things, similar to 75 hard. It's like, do it now or start over. I'm like,
which I'm not doing that, do it now or start over. If I miss a day of 75 hard, I missed a day. But I'm going to be intentional. The
goal is to get 75 out of 75. And if you get 55 out of 75, hallelujah.
Exactly. So, but I'm trying to stay accountable.
That's right.
But I think the other thing for evolving and owning that evolution is embracing it, but also seeking inspiration. So like books and podcasts of listening to people who are living the life you want to live. And I think constantly having that conversation does start to reprogram how you see yourself and
I think it goes back to earlier what you talked about and surrounding yourself with people who are doing similar things. I think it can feel like you're alone if you're only talking to people in your household and they don't garden or they aren't into I was gonna say Herbalife, but now that sounds like something. What is it? What's it? Herbology? Is that a word? Herbalism. There it is. See how I'm not in her.
See how I don't talk to her about this? No, I'm just kidding.
No, but you find a community, or even if it's 2 or 3 people, online, in real life, whatever, to talk about it with. It now opens your world to, like, there are people who have these discussions, and this isn't unattainable for me to have a community of 2 or 3 people who I go with to the farmer's market once a month to go get XYZ plants or herbs or what have you.
But I will say, even though I don't have a lot of people to talk to about my like niche interests, I will say that having this conversation or like us having the podcast episodes does still help me in like staying accountable and thinking about my small steps and big steps, because then I know like, I'll come back next week and I'll be able to share.
That's true. That's true.
So that's kind of nice for me. But I would say we're kind of rambling. I think basically what I'm suggesting as a way to embrace your evolution is just setting your clear goals, finding some inspiration, affirming yourself, embracing that there's going to be discomfort, and then seeking out a mentor or someone that can, or an ally, right? Someone that can hold you accountable, but also give you some advice, help you to pivot if you check in with yourself and you find that the things you're doing aren't aligning with where you actually want to go. It's someone that you can talk to and kind of think about how you can pivot. But yeah, I think in wrapping us up today, I'm not going to do a full-on visualization, but I do want to encourage you all. We're going to be meditating every episode. I do want to encourage you all, if you have time, you could even do this with ChatGPT, is tell it what you want from your life, or like what you would want, and ask it to visualize for you a perfect day. And what are all the things that you would need to do to achieve this dream life or evolution that you're seeking. And it'll actually write you a full story. And then you can sit and visualize with that story. So like imagining yourself waking up, imagining yourself starting your slow day, or whatever your goal is. ChatGPT can kind of guide you through a visualization that is tailored to you. So that could be nice. Obviously, you have to read it, so you won't be having your eyes closed. But you could read through it and then sit and envision it afterwards. So that's something I highly recommend.
You and ChatGPT are homies, so I might let it into my vision.
I know. I know people are a little iffy on AI and wanting them to know all your business.
I know.
They know all your business.
They already know all the business.
But anyway, do we want to do our sister circle question for today?
Yes, let's do it. We've been talking a lot about evolution, so we want to ask you, what's one part of your evolution that maybe scares you or that's holding you back? And how can you embrace it instead of running from it?
That'll be something I have to think about. Well, I've been thinking.
I know my answer, child.
You do? Do you want to share?
I already shared.
You did. The baby.
Yeah.
Well, there you have it. Maybe drop some tips below if you're a parent. What gave you clarity on being a parent? What made you know that you were confident and it was time? So if it was an accident, also share how that went. I'm curious. But anyways, we thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share with a friend. We're on our road to 100 subscribers.
Come on.
We'd love to make it there.
We'd love to make it there.
All right. Bye.